Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR Halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it's for Monday, 27th day of June, 21st day of Sivan. Here we go. We're going to start for a couple days now on the laws of Mechitza, those dividers in a shul that separate between the men and the women. First of all, what's the idea of having a mechitza in a shul? The idea is that davening is supposed to be a place of great concentration. You're supposed to never do davening in a light, way where you're barely focused on it, and it's supposed to be with intense concentration. And if men and women are sort of mixed together, then the concentration is way diminished because it's the human way of humans is that if they're mixed together, men and women together, then concentration on holy things like davening will be diminished, and that's the reason for mechitza. The first mention, if you want to kind of know like where it's first ever talked about, first mention is kind of in the Gemara in Sukkah on Daf Nun Aleph 51. There the Gemara talks about how at the time of the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, at the great celebrations, the rabbis of the time felt that when the men and women were possibly together during all that frivolous time, then it was just not good. There was too much lightheadedness between Kalas Rosh, they called it, lightheadedness between men and women, and so they separated them. But they found even the separations weren't so good, and they felt that a balcony was much more suitable to having everybody in their proper state of mind, so that the women were above in a balcony with a type of curtain or one-way viewing thing, kind of like a one-way glass, it would seem, possibly between the men and the women, and then there was no more mingling of the men and the women, and it was much more proper. And the Mishnah calls it a great fixing. Things now on the higher standard the way they were supposed to be. It's a Meiri. He's from the Rishonim's time, about 800 years ago, who says in Maseches Midos that it was something like a one-way where the ladies could see the men, but the men couldn't see the ladies, and that was enough to cause the separation and the frivolity to be stopped. The Gemara seems to say that balcony is the best way of separating men and women at times like that. The Gemara tells, interestingly, how in the future there will be a great eulogy for Mashiach ben Yosef. You didn't know this. There's going to be two Mashiachs, Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David. And Mashiach ben Yosef is actually going to be killed, and there'll be a great eulogy for Mashiach ben Yosef. And at the eulogy of Mashiach ben Yosef, futuristically speaking, the Torah tells us that the Gemara tells us that there's going to be a separation between the men and the women. And so the Gemara says, Kal v'chomer, that means like, imagine. That's not what Kal v'chomer means. It means like, of course, if a separation was needed at something like a eulogy, or will be needed at something like a eulogy, then of course it's needed when people are in a much more upbeat mood, because then the mingling and all the stuff that we don't want to happen can happen even more. Rav Moshe even calls it a chiyuv min haTorah, which means a command from the Bible. Not just that the rabbis made it up and instituted it later, but he says that it stems all the way back to the Torah. The Satmar Rebbe was of the opinion that the men and women shouldn't see each other. Rav Moshe Feinstein Zatzal said it kind of a little more mildly, and he said, no, it wasn't just for not seeing, it was mostly so that mingling and mixing shouldn't happen, because when the men and the women, as we stated at the outset, when men and women are mixed together, there's more lightheadedness, and that's not the way davening should be. And Rav Moshe says, of all the choices, if you can manage to set it up in your shul the proper way, the best choice is a balcony with the women up top and a kind of one-way viewing thing like a curtain or a glass between the men and the women. That's the best way if you can manage to set it up like that. Thanks for logging on. Log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.